Hello, everyone. This is your host, Scratch and Jack, for the Amazing Scale Modelers Sunday Hangout. A little bit of late because we were just trying to set up for tonight's show. Amazing Scale Modelers is a Google Plus and a Facebook community of scale modelers, reaching across all scale modeling genres and mediums, and to encourage friendships from around the world. And today, we hope you find it to be an important source of information about the hobby and hear about something new and see firsthand the scale modeling experience. Joining me today are the usual suspects to help me kill time and doing all these other things. And if you want to join us, the live chat is open. So bring your questions, comments. All are welcome today. And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and suggest. First up, I had my announcements here. Here they are, I think. I'm going to reiterate something just in case Eric, as a friend of mine, has not heard. Get well soon. Everybody's thinking about you. Wade Watson, yeah, I figured out how to download some pictures. It sounds like a repeat from yesterday. Download pictures from the Google Plus community. And also, I would encourage all the members to how should I put it? Post their pictures of their community builds. That would be the Batman build, the Street Muscle and custom car build, and the Stunt and Speed build, as well as a Star Wars build, which are starting to filter through the communities right now. We've done extensive talking about them yesterday. Look at the Amazing Scale Modelers Across the Pond Hangout from December 2nd. That was just yesterday. And take a look if you're interested in seeing some Star Wars eye candy. And we went into some pretty extensive talk about the build itself. And I shared the community covers too. We have new community covers, as we always do during this time when we have the Hangout. So check those out on each of the communities. They are Star Wars themed. That would be, you know what? Why don't I just share them again? That would be the thing to do. Let's see.
One's David's X-Wing diorama, which is beautiful.
Yeah, the X-Wing diorama, it is actually quite nice. Pictures on I think the Google Plus page, between the two pages, I don't know which end is up, but here is the screen share for the, okay, it's supposed to be here. Here it is. This is the picture I chose. The community cover. Just give you a good overall. In his posting, he has multiple pictures of close-ups, and he also has a video where you get to see the blinking and the shimmering of the welding torches. He did a fantastic job in creating those effects, I might say so myself. So he did awesome on that one. And let's see, where are we here? I want to flip over to the next page, which is the work in progress for the Star Destroyer. This was Christopher Colvin. He's talking about 400 feet of fiber optics to give you a sampling. There it is. That looks like 400 to me. Don't you think there, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. You do a lot of work for those tiny little points of light, but certainly he has other pictures in a Facebook community of the underside of the, I don't know, call it a shuttle bay, I guess some kind of a bay. He has lights in there too. So yeah, check those out. These are the community covers for the across the pond, the Facebook community and the Google Plus community. You see, I was in a hurry. I even took a shower and shave already. I mean, I'm actually looking pretty.
Jack, put the falsies back in.
I'm getting pretty presentable. I just relaxed a couple of hours after coming back from the house, so I was in a hurry to shower just so I can get my act together. And we're going to talk about those little blinkers down there in this episode. So, Randall had his blinkers yesterday. and it was driving me crazy. So I thought I'd pay you back there, mister.
There we are. No pleasure. Never been switched off since Wednesday. It's still going on a AAA battery.
Oh, it's because of your over. Oh, there it is. It's next to your other side of your head. There it is.
Well,
Okay, move the other way. Come on, move the other way. Move the other way. There you go. There's your blinker right there. So how you doing there, Randall?
Oh, not too bad, Jack. Yourself?
Start with you today. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
It's me, Brian.
There were. Yeah. Well, I have to admit, you and Lou inspired me yesterday.
Oh, sorry for that.
Oh yeah. That was a painful experience, but you did anyway.
Yeah.
I recently acquired. I don't remember what I did with the box. Anyway, no, it's the tiny Millennium Falcon from. Sorry, Jack. I'm going to swear here. Bandai. And
Bandai been a swear word.
It is in Jack's house.
Not over here.
So I thought I'm going to like this, and seeing it's the New Hope Falcon, there wasn't really an awful lot of lights about it. It didn't have the headlight or anything like that, and I just couldn't think how to light the engine grill. If you can see it there.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's too small. I'm sorry. What's the point of lighting it? It's too darn small, Randall.
Well, Jack is lighting his engine grill by putting LEDs in each individual exhaust port, and I thought, how can I do that in 350 scale?
Very hard.
Yeah, very hard indeed. Yeah. Then Lou's approach to his Star Destroyer is blooming the ends of multiple fiber optics, and then pulling them tight against the surface that he wants lit. So I figured there's 44. Yes, I did count them. 44 individual ports. Drill them out, put fiber optic into them, and then run them all off a single ultra bright LED inside the ship. It'll get hopefully a nice even right across. And like
Randall, I've said it many a time. I have said it many a time, Randall.
Yeah.
Stop showing me up. No, but seriously, Randall, why?
You show me up in your car builds, I can show you up in the other builds.
Have you ever heard of this before, Randall?
Have I ever what?
Have you ever seen this gesture before, Randall?
Yeah, I have on numerous occasions. I thought people were just being friendly.
Here's another one. Edit. Okay, I just have a question, Randall. Do you have to light everything?
Do I have to light everything?
Yeah.
No.
Yes. I think you should.
I'm going to go with Jack on this one. Seriously, if you get that little ship lighted, you're going to have to tell me how to do it, because that's what I was thinking of doing with mine until I saw the engine. I'm going,
Yeah, the engine itself is actually quite thick. It'd be the same as Lou's Star Destroyer. I'll have to carve away this little lip, if only to make it drilling through a lot easier, and somewhere for the fiber optics to go, rather than trying to bend them around everything.
But then again, why do the small one when I've got this?
Yeah, indeed. That'd be a lot easier to light.
Well, yeah, it would be. Yeah, it would actually. You're right. Yeah, you're right there. Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
Go for it.
All I just need now is someone to teach me how to do it.
You should light one of your F1 cars. There's lots of lights on those things.
Yeah, there's the
Oh,
pale white.
I was thinking about that.
There's the red flasher on the back and the
I'll
whole.
wait till it's my turn.
Yeah.
This is
Okay.
Randall's turn. I'll wait till it's my turn, right?
Take it away, Heath. Whatever direction.
No. You go, Randall. You go.
Yep.
It's your turn. You go.
Yep. Apart from finishing these characters, getting them up on their feet.
Ah, okay. We have
That's
deer.
a great build.
And this one.
Yes.
Oh, look, it's the cousins.
Mm-hmm.
So, which one's the British? So, you've made them both American or both British?
They're both British, both Fleet Air Arm, both the same squadron, and both flown by a gentleman who sadly passed away earlier this year. So, he lived in Canada somewhere. I can't remember now. Off the top of my head, I can't remember where in Canada he lived, but he had lived there since the end of the war, although he was from Jersey in the Channel Islands, not New Jersey, the original Jersey.
I was waiting for that.
So I thought I would build these two Wildcats in his honor.
Oh, lovely.
Peter Locke was his name. Even if he did fly one of them into a lake when he was 19 years of age, Christmas Eve, 1944.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's me.
That's you. Okay. Yeah. I just want to say that Phil is on the live chat. I don't know why he's not joining us. Hi, George. He's watching us too.
Hello, George.
Oh, he's feeling a little rough for being the werewolf that he is. I guess the moon isn't full enough for him.
No, there's a full moon out there, so yep, he's maybe he thinks he's too hairy to appear.
But there is something here. I was looking to, let's see if I can only get to it, because there's a couple of things I want to show off. There's actually a lot of things I'd like to show off on the community, but this particular one caught my attention because it was somebody's first time doing a Gundam. And of course, if Mark, I had to think of his name, if Mark was watching, I don't know if he is, but he will probably see in the rerun. But he probably knows. Gosh, look at this. Okay, come on. And this is actually a good presentation of the Gundam this guy did. So that's.
And while we're waiting for Jack, let's have a weather report.
John Hunt.
Oh yeah, I loved his background.
Woo.
He did. Yeah.
John, he's great. I follow him on Google Plus. He's brilliant. He does a lot of Star Trek stuff as well. He's just about nearly finished. I think he was doing. John had just finished doing an Republic gunship, I think, one of the lats from Attack of the Clones.
Mm.
Yeah, he's got even a lightsaber lit up on this thing.
Oh yeah, John's one of the best.
Yeah.
Okay,
That looks good. Looks good. Looks real good. So that's Sean Hunt over at Amazing Skill Modelers on the.
Yes, that's what John's just finished. He's just finished a Republic ATTE, an armored terrain tactical enforcer from Attack of the Clones. That's what he's recently. I tell you what, it's a pretty big kit. It's a pretty big kit too.
What are you doing there, Heath?
Oh, well, I've been working on two kits. That's 1, 2. The first one's my Lotus. That's two. Yes. My Lotus is. I've just glued some parts into that, so that's drying. But the one that's nearly finished is my A4E Skyhawk. I gave it a paint job yesterday,
Ah,
and it's
Oh.
just it's not white. It's not white. This is light gold grey. If you can see that, it's light gold.
Yeah.
So there's the bottom.
Oh, yeah, you can see the contrast with the two colors now, yeah.
Yeah. So that the bottom on the instructions they said to paint the bottom white and to paint the top bit light grey. So I've done that. I do apologize. I had to hand paint this one because I didn't have a spray can. So, but this one's nearly finished. I've put some more stuff on today. I've put the, if you can check, you can just see that there. That's the refuel. Oh, well, you can see that. That's the refueling pod.
yeah.
And then I've got to put in. So I've nearly finished that. What else am I doing? What else am I doing at the moment? Yeah, the Lotus. I'm just basically waiting for Christmas. Just waiting for Christmas to go by, and then I can start all over again.
Nobody's waiting for Christmas to go by any more than me. Trust me.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at my model kits that I've done this year, and it's like I haven't built so much in my life. And I'm still going. I'm still going. Well, for each month, I've built a kit, whether it be an aircraft carrier or the cars or something like that. I think I've either built one or two a month, or I've built one a month. But I'll have to wait till next. I don't know if I'll be at the next across the pond because I'll get really tired because that's like about 11:30 over here when that happens. That's why I come here when it's like non-daylight savings time. Yeah, I like the non-daylight savings time better because it starts at 9:30 and that gives me enough time.
Yeah, we're an hour behind, so to speak, and you're an hour ahead. That just kind of makes things goofy. Yeah.
But no, I'm actually doing my Lotus. The Lotus is looking really, really well. I've just put the two side radiators on at the moment, and I've basically finished all the monocoque and everything like that. That's all done. Just got to put a few decals on the outside of the monocoque because I've been looking at some reference photos of the 99T, and it's got it's sponsored by Camel, so it's got like a yellow camel underneath the body shell. It's also got an elf, so I've got to try. I did have an elf on there, an elf decal on the front before, but somehow it fell off. Even though I used the decal fix, it didn't stay on. So I'm going to have to do that. But besides all that, Randall was saying light one of the F1 cars. Well, I could, but in the 80s they didn't have many lights. Unlike today's cars where you could actually get, with today's cars, you can actually do like the gear change little.
The gear light on the back that shows what gear they're in. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, I would love to light a F1 car, but because the steering, the only two parts that I could light is the rain light, which is at the back of the car, and the steering wheel. But because the parts are so small, I don't think you get the steering wheel part's really, really small, and I don't think you can get fiber optic that small. Otherwise I would. I could do a diorama with a soundboard. Yeah, but lighting it, the only thing that's really worth lighting is the rain light. Unlike the Batmobile, where you could do the front and the back and the jet engines, that you could do. But with an F1 car, it's a bit hard. I mean, Some guys even like these, believe it or
Yeah.
not. I mean, they put a nice little orange light there, but I don't think, to be honest, I don't think it's worth lighting an F1 car just for one light. I mean, really. Where would you, I mean, if I was to do, what I am thinking of actually doing is, after I finish my Lotus and this, I was actually thinking of building a full-size Formula One steering wheel from one of my favorite cars, the MP413, static display steering wheel, and just don't have it lit, just have like little buttons and stuff like that, and then try and, you know, just say I built one, because it's going to be difficult, because on the back of the steering wheels back in the 90s and the 80s, you had like flappy pedal gearboxes, like we do today. How in the heck would you do that, you know? But the problem
they're
is
not really that hard to do on the back of the wheel. It's not that hard to simulate those.
But the thing is, though, it was made out of carbon fiber, and I know how much carbon fiber is. Not cheap at all. Not cheap at all.
Well, you can get simulated. You can get simulated carbon fiber decals to go.
Make the frame out of wood.
Yeah,
like really good quality wood.
Yeah,
and then get some carbon fiber decal paper and put it around the. Put it around the yard. Yeah. But then I'd need like a jigsaw, a bandsaw, and everything like that. So I'd have to get all that stuff first before I did that. So, damn you, Kitty! What are you doing in here?
Between Jim and I think we're the only scale modelers that don't have a cat. That's been my impression anyway.
I can't help that much.
If I want my fill of cats, I just go visit my sister.
Yeah,
that's me done. So who's next?
Who's next? That would make Jim. Jim next. You've been playing around with some stuff there, mister.
I have been playing around.
Yeah, we're going to get in depth with that momentarily, but show us your servo.
Okay. There's a couple of things I've been working on. Well, you know, I've been doing the casting. I did a test lighting of the nacelle. One of the nacelles, anyway.
Oh, is this for the Arcadia?
Yes.
I know someone else is building an Arcadia, I think. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So I've done a test lighting of the.
Ooh. Oh, you got disconnected, I think. No.
Oh, it's the LED's not glued in place.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Young,
dear.
would you mind? All of a sudden, I've turned into a cat. Get down.
So I got that. I basically drilled the back of the clear piece and just inserted the LED into the back of the clear piece. So drilled it to fit an LED. And the bigger part of today, I've been working on the test bed for my servo controller. So I had the circuit up. Let's bring the circuit up. Dun, dun, dun. Boing. Application. Oh, where is it here? No, don't. And we go screen share.
Yeah, do the. Phil said, "Why don't you do the rest of the show with a cat on your shoulder?"
Yeah. So this is the servo controller. Yeah. So this is the controller circuit I found. And
this does what?
well, this produces the variable pulses by adjusting this pot here that changes the frequency in the output of the circuit, which varies the pulse width that allows you to control the servo.
Pulse width, meaning the duration, how long the electric is on to the servo.
Yeah, and how long the positive side of the signal is on. Yeah.
Yeah. Trust me, I'm going to break it down to common English.
Yeah, because our servos are operated by pulse width modulation. So,
Uh-huh.
so anyone that's into RC would know what that means.
Right. Right.
And doing, doing. Yeah, and this is the end result of a block diagram. What I'm having is there'll be two of those circuits in there, and there's a relay with a gated control that will be switching it between position 1 and position 2 towards the servo. So
now, for somebody looking at the schematic, of course, the lines are going to be the wires, and the dots on the lines is where the wires actually are connected.
Yeah. So that's with that part. I come back here. Oh, get back here. And kill the screening. Stop sharing. Okay. Now we get back to what the circuit is. It's running here. Boink. Let's grab the camera. And we've got the servo here. We have that 5-5 timer circuit set up on the breadboard, and the servo's plugged into the breadboard. And if you adjust the pot, I'm trying to get my orientation here.
I'd love to lend you a hand, but I need a passport to stick my hand through the screen.
Yeah. Okay. Come on, I had it right. Wow, there we are.
There we are.
So if you adjust the pot, you can adjust the servo.
Right. This is a pretty sophisticated, would you say from what I'm going to show, is this going to be more sophisticated or not?
Not really. It's basically a similar circuit to your flasher circuit. There's not much difference between it.
Okay.
It's basically the same as your timer circuit. So but what we're doing is we're adjusting the frequency on the output. So it'll be like adjusting the flash rate, and that different frequency of flash rate of what adjusts the position of the servo.
So basically, you're saying your pot there to adjust it is sort of like a dial. You can turn it to, like, say, a 3 o'clock position, and your servo imitates it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, the timing on this is set up for the equivalent to what this servo requires for its movement for maximum minimum position on the servo. So you're just sweeping the frequency between the minimum frequency and the maximum frequency for the servo. Yeah,
I would like to learn how to do this, because I think the next step that I'd like to attempt is to animate the scale models. I mean,
yeah,
I found a video from a guy who does a lot of RC. He did a 72 scale Millennium Falcon build. And he had it with the landing gear down, and he showed that he can have the ramp, the entry ramp, go up and down. And he also had he also had sound to match the movements too, which is a whole different level of things.
Yeah, because now you're getting in where you're going to have to sync movement with sound. So that's going to require. You're going to require a microcontroller of some sort in there to do that.
Yeah, and he even had, like, occasionally in the movies, when the engines wouldn't start, it had that struggle like a '57 Chevy would have.
Or installed, yeah.
Yeah. And he had that also, his lights synchronized in his burners.
Yeah.
And here, from what I remember from the video, now I don't know what the website, or should I say his addresses or his user, but I'm sure if you go onto YouTube and look around for, 72 scale Millennium Falcons, I'm sure you're bound to run into it. It felt like his individual burners were sort of like not in sync with each other when he was making that sound, attempting to fire.
He's doing, because he's doing that with the microcontroller, and then he's firing because he's using different LEDs for different parts of the light, so he can signal them at different periods using the microcontroller.
Right, and once it got started, they have like a unison shimmering of sorts. Not quite off, not quite on, kind of a shimmering effect. And he did a fantastic job, I'd say, on the engines. So that would be something that, of course, I'd be interested in learning how to do. So I've been dabbling with these electronics things for a good 3 years, 4 years, ever since the community actually started. I don't know what got me really started on this, but certainly I kind of put it aside for a while. In fact, just recently I had to re-educate myself with everything that I'm actually going to show tonight, as well as what you're showing there. So, well, let's get started. I'd like to show off first some really simple components for. I mean, we're talking about going, way down the scale as far as being a total amateur here. So I just got a Word document up here. I just copy and pasted things from Wikipedia. Now, Wikipedia does, of course, give you a general description of what you're talking about here. And there it is. A resistor is a passive two-terminal electrical component. And basically, if you think of this as a funnel or an obstruction in the wire to resist the flow of electricity, and to adjust levels, to divide voltages, and all kinds of other things. Resistors are pretty basic, and they're not polarized, meaning electric can flow in either direction.
Yeah.
Unlike in an LED, they can only go in one direction. There's a positive and negative terminal. This can go in either direction. And also, too, if you overburden it, this being pictured here is, it looks to me like a ½ watt.
That's a quarter watt, I think.
Yeah, I use a lot of quarter watt, something that's about the half the size, physically too, as a matter of fact, because it's just smaller. You'll see why momentarily why I use a quarter watt, because they're really, when you're lighting LEDs, you don't really need anything larger than a quarter watt. It's very rare that you're going to need ½ watt, but also the electric that it dissipates, in other words, restricts from passing through, is translated into heat. Isn't that correct?
Yes, it is, because when you're restricting the current flow going to the LED, so that current's got to go somewhere, so it's being dissipated in the LED. So if you've got more current flowing through the resistor, then that's going to result in heat, because you got resistance and power. You're going to get heat. So that's why it's also important with your resistor. You have to select the right, depending upon your load. If you're only doing one LED, it's no problem using a quarter or sometimes or an even 1/8 watt resistor. But if you're doing multiple LEDs, now all of a sudden your current off that one circuit, your current's going to increase, and you're going to have a larger power rating of a resistor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I run into that on one of my builds that didn't succeed, but I am going to attempt it again. It's a building of 1,000 scale NX01. So yeah, and I didn't have any space inside the nacelles to put multiple resistors in it for the multiple LEDs I had in there. So I was basically, if you tie, number of resistors together, you increase its wattage and then have the heat dissipate over multiple resistors, or they even make heat sinks. In other words, something that would attach to it that would absorb the heat and then dissipate it separate from the component.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the bottom along there are on a schematic, a drawing of a circuit. You will see these symbols, and this is, of course, just the basic.
That's a fixed resistor.
That's a fixed resistor that's pictured up here.
Yeah. B is just B is a variable resistor.
Yep, B is a variable, and a
C is a potentiometer.
Is C. Potentiometer is basically, in layman's term, a dimmer. A dimmer. So you can vary the
output out of the wiper. Yeah.
Almost an infinite between 2 points, infinite different levels. Variable resistor basically has low, medium, and high as an example, right?
Yeah, they come in different formats. You can get which is similar to that pot, except in a circuit board version. It's like that, or they can come like in this version here, which is a multi-turn pot. In other words, where the other one is a single wafer from one side to the other, this is multiple turns to get from one side of the resistor to the other.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where am I? Oh, there it is. Okay, that's just resistance. Next, we have capacitors. Basically, it stores electric energy. Basically, electric goes in, and then depending on a circuit, it releases it in a pulse, typically.
Yeah.
And if you go to a straight circuit, it'll just soak up electricity, and you turn off the circuit, and maybe the LED would dim down. In other words, use up the electric inside the capacitor.
Yeah, it's like a battery. It charges energy into it.
Right.
But it won't pass a DC current. It'll pass an AC current, but it won't pass a DC current.
Right.
And then they come.
So the ones I used most are the one. Is this
electrolytics?
Is this working? The electrolytic?
Yeah.
Right here?
Electrolytics, which are polarized capacitor.
Yeah, these are polarized. That is what.
So you show the symbol is like that shows for the positive lead. So you got to remember, if you're using an electrolytic or a tantalum capacitor, which is also a polarized capacitor, to put them in the right way. Or if you're under the voltage rating, it may be all right for a while backwards, but if you're close to the voltage rating, nothing's going to blow up if you put them in backwards.
Basically, these things have two sides inside them. The electric flows into one end, and then there's the best way I can describe it is some sort of, I don't want to say resistance, but some sort of barrier between the other side.
Yeah, it's a chemical and a foil. Basically, it's in there.
It basically, the best way I can describe it is a sieve. I mean, the sieve will hold, and if the holes in a sieve are tiny enough, and the flow into the sieve, the best way to describe this thing is really in plumbing and water terms. So if you get a gush of water going into a sieve and the sieve has tiny little holes, then the sieve keeps filling up, and it could blow up your capacitor. But if the flow in kind of matches the flow out, they'll hold on to a charge. It'll hold back some electric and then electrons and then release it depending on your circuit too. So
closer an analogy to like your air tank on your airbrush compressor.
Okay, that makes sense.
Better comparison.
That is.
The other one there for those symbol is a variable capacitor. which are usually got adjustable plates. Just two examples there in the picture.
Yeah, right here.
Where
So you can adjust the capacitance of.
If anyone with older radios remember probably seeing those inside used for tuning the dial on their radios and that.
Right. Well, in today's circuit, I'm going to show what's electrolytic, and there's going to be one circuit that has these ceramic ones that are fixed. They can go in either direction.
Yeah.
All right, and another one here that I find fascinating is the transistor to amplify or switch signals. And the one I use is like right here. It's pretty small.
220 case, yeah.
It's about not even quite an inch long. And there are two types. There's a PNP and an NPN. What's described here in the, this is a PNP. This is what I use most. Basically, what you can see here is if you want the electric here from going from top to bottom, I think this is the correct polarization here. Not that the this transistor needs to be polarized, it doesn't. You have the flow of electric going from top to bottom of this schematic, and then there's this gate, the base. The middle prong is like a little doorway. It opens and closes. It lets electric through or it stops it. Is that a good description?
Yeah.
All right, and this middle leg, if you charge it, in other words, have electric hit it, then it will allow the flow to go through. This is a PNP. And NPN does the opposite.
That's an NPN.
This is an NPN?
That's an NPN.
Wikipedia told me it was a PNP. But this arrow is telling me it's a PNP. Because if it was pointing the other direction, it'd be an NPN, wouldn't it? No?
No, that's an NPN. If you have a PNP. Yeah.
Well, okay, but it'll still work because the description is the opposite. The arrow will be pointing into this base if it was an NPN then.
If it was a PNP.
Oh, emitter. Look at that. It says emitter, so to go in that direction. All right.
Yeah.
So this would be a PNP then. No? NPN. Sorry. NPN. Sorry. It's just so hard to get the... So in other words, in this one, when electric
biggest rule of thumb is the arrow's pointing out, it's an NPN. If the arrow's pointing in, it's a PNP.
PNP. But how do you make a rhyme out of it and remember? It's not like lefty loosey, righty tighty, you know.
Yeah.
But in this regard, that if you put a charge in the base, then it will.
Yeah, it puts it
stop the
turns
flow.
on the gate. Yeah, if you don't have a charge, it's where a PNP works the opposite way.
Yes.
A PNP, if the current on the base is high, then it won't pass current. If the base if it's low, it will pass current.
And the last component that we're going to present here is a 555 timer. This is actually a schematic of what the inside of these little buggers look like. 25 transistors, 2 diodes, 15 resistors on a silicon chip. 556 is basically 255 timers side by side.
On the same package, yeah.
On the same package or the same chip or the same integrated circuit, as they're really called, IC.
Yeah.
And the 555 has 8 terminals or 8 legs, whereas the 556 would have twice that many. It would be 16.
16.
Right. But basically, a 556 will be 2 of these side by side. And I didn't grab a picture as to what one might look like, but I can show you on my board here. These are tiny little buggers. They actually kind of look like bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Let's see if it wants to focus. There's not enough light hitting them. But it's a little square thing with little legs.
And a dot on it to tell you which is pin 1.
Yeah, and the way that works is, correct me
you
if I'm
count
wrong.
around the legs
if
you count around the legs counterclockwise.
Right. If you have if the dot is facing up, then you go counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's always counterclockwise, right? Always counterclockwise.
Always counterclockwise.
Well, that's going to confuse a lot of people. So, okay. Without further ado, I'm going to turn down the current on here. And if you are going to dabble into electronics, get yourself one of these things.
One power supply.
A power supply. It plugs into a wall outlet, and you can vary with these dials, vary either the current, but I only use the voltage. See, I'm turning up the voltage.
Yeah, for most of what we're doing, you should always have the current control wide open, always all the way up.
Yeah, it is not quite always wide open, but it's enough for it to work. But the fine adjustments on the current side is I can turn, but it's pretty much all wide open.
Yeah.
But the voltage you can turn up, you can turn down. But for the sake of showing you what I got here, I'm going to turn it down so not to overwhelm the camera, because the camera is already pretty much overwhelmed. So this is a solderless breadboard. And as you can see, one is a blinky and the other is a strobe. And they both have the same exact components. You can see the IC chip, 555 timer. You can see a capacitor. You can see a couple resistors, couple resistors here. This particular one with the strobe has a transistor. But, and then this is nothing here. This resistor is nothing. So pull that out.
Surplus to the cause. Yeah.
I don't want to show more than I needed to. But this, there's a difference between them. They have the same number of components. They're all wired the same exact way. I hope I'm illustrating it well enough to show that it is being wired pretty much the same exact way. Let me get it from this angle.
They have basically the same layout for both of them. Yeah.
Similar, yeah, except for the one with the transistor.
Yeah.
The reason being is, let me see if I can bend this over a little bit. All right. What makes these two circuits very different are the pair of resistors here. Okay, with the blinky, they are the exact same. If I were to increase the resistance to it, it'll blink even slower. If I decrease the resistance to it, it'll blink faster. The blink rate is the same on and off. And the capacitor and basically you can think of the resistor. Remember, resisting electric, feeding your capacitor, and then the capacitor, and the timer times that capacitor from releasing the electric and for how long. Pretty much how that works. These two resistors are different from each other.
Yep.
One is has more resistance than the other.
Yeah.
And one of these days,
because the difference in the timing cycle between the on state and the off state,
right?
You want them different for a strobe, so the resistors are different value,
right,
for different time period.
And the reason I have a transistor in this is because the nature of this circuit, it is an on with the strobe off. And as we described the transistor as a gate, so I turned the circuit basically backwards so that the pulse of the light being on instead of the pulse being the light off. And that's how I got that. And when you make it into a solder circuit, let's put it on the white sheet here. This is what the two circuits look like, soldered together. The red leads is the power in. The green leads is the power out. The yellow leads is the power into the LED.
Your signal.
And the blue, and the blue is the ground for the LED. So I don't have it attached to LEDs, but I did test this, and it does work just like you saw on the
breadboard.
solderless breadboard. But this particular thing has what we call socket, one of these things, for the 555 timer. And the reason I'm using it is because when you're soldering it together, these little buggers, they're very sensitive to heat. So I don't have this plugged in when I'm doing the circuit.
They're also sensitive if you've got a cheap iron that's an AC iron. The AC signal will destroy the IC too.
Oh, will it?
As opposed to a DC iron. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even know that, but I just used it because of the heat component. But let's see what the back side, and this is when you know somebody knows what they're doing. This took a lot of practice to do. Okay. Oh, it doesn't want to focus now. Let's see if I can turn it back around. See, it wants to focus there. It doesn't want to focus on, oh, okay. There, we compromised. You can see I did little bus lines. And those are legs from LEDs, spent LEDs, and I save them, cut them off, and I use them for this purpose. And basically, it just makes the whole row of holes the same, and it makes soldering so much easier and so much neater. Like on a solderless breadboard, like if you are, there's a weird angle. You can see there's a divider, and all the rows here are the same, and the rows on the back are the same, and that's how this IC chip just basically straddles over it. And that's what I'm doing on the back of this, is just imitating that. If you see one in an S figuration, that is for the part of the circuit. That's on the underside. That's basically connecting, I think, number 1 to number 5, I think, or 8,
yeah.
or something like that.
1 to 5. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's actually part of the circuit. That's not something that'd be common in all circuits. And I'm going to show you something also. This is just to make it interesting. This is not a 555 timer. This is a 4060 IC chip. This has 16 terminals. And there's a number of terminals. I think there is 6 or 7 terminals on this that would have different blink rates. Let me connect this up.
Yeah, it's what we call a binary counter. It's an 8-bit binary counter.
All right. And you're seeing it as a 2 flasher. And the reason this is a two flasher is because you've got the terminals on your chip that will have different blink rates, like 1 second on, 1 second off, and then the binary will be then a half a second on, half a second off. That'd be another leg, and then a quarter second on, quarter second off, and that's where you're getting this blink rate. And what I'm doing is this LED is powered by a very fast blink rate. However, it's being sent through a transistor, which opens and closes that gate on and off. And that's how I get the double blink. Pretty cool, huh? This took me a long time to figure out. But it had to do with the fact of the capacitor, and this little tiny thing over here is the capacitor. It's a very low rated capacitor. And then I have a real sophisticated one. As far as I'm concerned, sophisticated. I built this a few years ago. And this is a 4017 decade counter.
Mm-hmm.
When you couple it with a 555 timer, you get this. Attach it there. Attach it here. And it doesn't work. Let's see if I can. Oop, no, that's not going to work it. Why does it? Oh, because it's on the other side. I put them on the same side. Got to power this up a little bit. There we go. And if you got rid of these, you could see it could become a strobe. But if you're doing like a Star Trek model with landing bay lights that race, this is a circuit you would use. You would probably use one of the legs from the decade counter to be the strobe. And even if you tied two of the counters together, you'll get a flash instead of a strobe if you tie two or more together. But this is called a decade counter. That's a 4017 is the IC chip, and it's paired with a 555 timer. The 555 timer side is very similar to what we've just shown you as far as the circuitry is concerned. And the pulses coming from the 555 timer go into the decade counter.
Yeah.
And what it does is what you said, clocks it. And the decade counter splits the signal into many different pulses to different legs, and that's why you get the racing effect on this. All these things I'm going to probably I should do a schematic of this one particularly. This one's a fun one to do. The thing with this is what surprises me about this circuit is the 4017 IC chip is very sensitive to static electricity. Static electricity can knock it out. It can destroy it. And after kicking around in a damp basement, it still works. I think it might have been in a dry basement. It might have been a problem, but
it's mostly because it's in a circuit, so it's got loads on the gates. It's when it's free, when it's unloaded, that this becomes a real issue for the static buildup. But once it's in a circuit, it's not a big issue.
True. Yeah, that's true. I guess that would be it, because when I have the ones that I have are actually sunk into like a styrofoam block.
Oh, it's in a carbon foam block. Yeah.
Yeah. The 5.5 timer doesn't need to be treated so sensitively, nor the 4060 chip. They're not as sensitive to that sort of thing. But the decade counter certainly is.
Yeah, it's a CMOS chip. Yeah.
And you know, the cost of these components is really cheap. A resistor can go as little as 3 cents if you get them straight from China. Same with capacitors. Capacitors can be, like a nickel, 5 cents. The IC chips can be as much as not $1 or maybe a little less. The decade counter can come as much as $2, and same with the 4060. So you'd have to shop around. But if you get them straight from China, like I just bought a whole bunch of PNP transistors, and I got 100 for like $6, shipped free. So if you shop around on eBay, you can find these components pretty cheap. And the solderless breadboards can be pretty pricey. I just bought a couple. I haven't received them from China yet. I needed more of these. I like these because it has the power buses on both sides, meaning you can.
Yeah, you go single ones, or you can go up to the larger ones like I got here that have got connectors so you can connect to your power supply and everything else on it.
Right. Well, these don't have those power bars. These are just like you have these rows, and these rows are all the same.
Yeah.
I bought 5 of these stateside, and they cost, I think it might have been less than $10. No, it could have been that. I have to look it up, but I think it may have been a lot less. I think they turn out to be $1.50 each. And if you're not into soldering, because soldering takes a lot of practice, wouldn't you agree, Jim?
It does take some practice, yeah, to get the solder connections right.
I get a little heavy-handed, so it took a lot of learning on my part. But there's nothing wrong with doing a solderless like this. And if you wanted to keep it, somebody made the suggestion online. If you want to keep the circuit, all you really got to do is maybe dip it into 5-minute resin, like glue.
Yeah.
Let it cure, and it should be fine. Somebody showed.
I've seen people put them into little plastic project boxes too.
Yeah, yeah, and the only reason that you do that is it'll keep the components together without having them soldered, and just be sure that you got all the leads coming off the circuit that you want. Now you can see here I used a half a watt resistor. They're a lot bigger than the 1/4 watt. I think at the time I made this, I only had access to Radio Shack. That's what Radio Shack gave me. Radio Shack is no more. But those are the kinds of things that you can dabble into. I mean, you don't have to learn how to solder to do these things. You can do these solderless boards, and you can just glue them in place, I guess, and just call it a day. And you could put them in. I have one model that has a soldered circuit in it, circuit board in it. It was before I learned the neat technique of doing things. It was a rat's nest, not a bird's nest, a rat's nest. It certainly is. I might be able to quickly find the picture of it. It's and it's one of my favorite pictures because it still works. It still works. Let's see. This is my builds. No. You know what? I thought I'd reorganize my computer files, and quite frankly, I'm not happy with the way I'm doing it because I can't find anything anymore. All right, it is a bash build. It's basically from Star Trek, and it's the Satellite class, the destroyer, the scout ship. I put the circuitry in the nacelle. Kind of messy. And at the time I was using, dangerously using magnetic wire, which is like human hair.
Yeah.
But you could see like the transistors there. The 4060 IC chip is there. You can even see the capacitor. So yeah, this is a double blank. This is the double blank circuit that I have. And this is whole assembly, just fiber optics LED double blank on the ends of the nacelle. And the double blanks are also on top of the saucer. But I incorporated in there, and it still works. A lot of people suggest not to do that because you can't fix it once it's in a model unless you want to pull your model apart.
You can't access it then? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of time people put in a base. That way you can access it and get it fixed. But really, this is really easy. This is something you can spend a lot of time doing, or a little bit of time. It doesn't really take that much, I don't think. What do you think, Jim?
No, it depends on the circuit. Basically, what takes the time is the logistics and figuring out how big the circuit is going to have to be to fit if you're fitting it in the model or into your base, and what components you require in order to achieve what you want to do. And that's about the big thing. It's all the logistics of what takes the time, not the actual building. And
yeah, that's true.
But another thing to remember, always build a test circuit before you hard build it. Don't trust a diagram that you've got and just build straight.
Yes.
You're guaranteed it's going to fail.
Yeah, that's why the solderless breadboards are really good, because you can experiment. Just as you saw me go through the different adulations. Oh, what is the resistor? Because I couldn't tell the colors on a background of blue.
Yeah.
And
It's easier to plug different ones in than unsoldering and soldering them back in all the time.
Well, that certainly is very true. And that's somewhat the hard way. And the way you know just going back to the resistor, the way you know what resistance you're getting off of a resistor are these color bands around them. It's a color code. I believe this one is
330 ohms.
330, yeah. Yeah, I was about to say either 440 or 330.
Orange is 3, so there's 33, and brown is 10 to the 1, so that's times 10, so that's 330 ohms.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's how you tell the difference between the two. And I was just belaboring, because I found a circuit on an old board right here. This is a blinker board. I found this and it still worked. I'm like, oh yeah, well, this is what I want to relearn to do. And because the resistors, the pair of resistors right there, I couldn't figure for the life of me what they were. And there's another toy you can buy yourself to figure that out. And you know what I'm bringing out here, Jim?
You mean this? Your multimeter?
Yeah, yeah, multimeter. On it, you'll see, like when you're gonna learn about ohms, you go to a Wikipedia, and ohms is just the amount of resistance you get out of a resistor, and you could use this thing to figure out what they are. And this was very helpful, actually.
Actually, because some of them, especially the ones on blue ceramic, are very hard to read the colors.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They
very hard to read. One here, Jeff.
Yeah.
Very, very basic, but it does the job.
Oh, you can get them from about. You can get meters from about $10 up. You know, so they're the whatever quality you want. I mean, you can vary the prices accordingly, you know, to what quality of meter you want. But you can get real cheap ones and real expensive ones.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you really want to, here goes a plug, if I've ever heard one. If you really don't want to deal with this stuff, you can always ask Ralph. Kind of controls, to do the circuit for you. And Arduino is another thing that I'd like to get into and learn, because you can do a lot of what you're doing, the servo thing.
You can do it on software. Yeah.
Yeah, and use software controlling the chip. The IC chip is a much more sophisticated than we're showing you here. And they're programmable, and that's what Ralph's are. His chips are programmable. He's already got the programs. He just has the machine put together the board, and he programs it.
Yeah.
And that program will stay there until it actually gets changed, and it can get changed.
Yeah.
But these things are fixed. You can't program these. These are just the nature of the components. But yeah, I mean, if you want to just not even deal with it, just ask Ralph or buy Ralph's boards. Controls.com. And kicking out as a modeler. I don't know. You could do it. Hey, I bought some of his boards, and his boards are actually pretty cool. And he gives you instructions. He gives you LEDs. He even gives you wires. He gives you everything in the package.
Yeah.
So you don't have to add anything to it.
Almost as close as you can get to plug and play.
And he'll do special programming for you if you require it too.
Yeah, and he will do special programming if you want it as well. And as such, he has a 5-year warranty on his boards. The best warranty in the business. It really is. I can't. This is me. I can't warranty these things. Certainly can't hit it. But Uno, what do you call it? Arduino Unos and the different shields. You can do the same thing with Unos, with Arduinos. You could do your own programming.
It's just it's just a longer learning curve and that to learn how to do it with the Arduino boards and that, or the PIC processors.
Yeah, there is. So, I mean, if you wanted to dabble in the electronics, I think this would be a good place to start. Wouldn't you think that, Jim?
Yeah, this is a good way because it's simple. It's simple, and all you got to do is there's lots of information online or books you can get. There's even a dummies book that you can get, or more advanced electronics book, and there's simple formulas for calculating your timings and stuff like that. So all the information is all available readily if you know where to look. And
Right.
that's
James Kirk in the live chat. I think this is meant for you, Jim.
yeah.
He said you can get a stepper motor circuit off of eBay, and it comes with a remote control for a few dollars.
A stepper, yeah, stepper motor is different thing than a servo control.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you have it. I didn't know.
A stepper motor is a controlled motor, but it's a 360-degree rotation. A servo is only, it's basically a movement from 0 to maximum of 360, depending upon the servo.
It's like the servos you get for radio control aircraft that operate the flight control surfaces. You don't want something that's going to turn the flap at 360 degrees.
No, a lot of them are only like 270 degrees maximum rotation. So for the application I'm doing here, where I'm just rotating the model 90 degrees, servo is perfectly fine for that. If I wanted to turn it right around, then I could go to a stepper motor. But if I'm not doing a full 360 rotation repetitively, then I don't need a stepper.
Yeah, a servo would do you just fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be chatting with you about that particular circuit. You did show it already as a screen share.
Yeah.
So do it on your solderless breadboard first, I guess, is the. Okay, could you use any servo for that? Because I think there are different servos. Is it not true?
Their servos come on. Well, most your RC servos are all similar. There are higher level servos that are used like in robotics and really big aircraft that require more voltage, that are 12-volt servos. This one in the case is a 5-volt servo, and they're rated. The servos are rated according to the amount of torque that they have. So it depends how much you're moving with the servo just to get the right size servo for whatever torque you require.
Well, for what you're doing, it doesn't need much torque at all. It's basically moving.
No, this one's one kilogram maximum torque, so it's perfectly fine for moving that, rotating.
1 kilo.
Yeah.
Holy crap! That seems like a lot. 2.2 pounds. That seems like a lot for a little bugger like that.
Well, it's all full of gears, so I mean, it's all. It's got a little motor and a bunch of gears.
Yeah. So this is really easy stuff, and a lot of what I encountered a lot of videos about what we just discussed. I think kind of like a little too complicated because they're using the jargon a little too much.
Yeah, it's hard. Once you get embedded into it, you get stuck in the jargon, and it's hard to explain it to other people that way.
And also too, when you're reading, when it comes to this, like the blinker circuit and what you're doing and the servo circuit, they happen to be the most simplistic circuits there.
Yeah.
And that are involved. I mean, when you showed yours, you had a couple of wires here and there, and that was pretty much it. You had your resistors.
Oh,
it doesn't look that much.
No, but then you can go to something like. Let me pull this out. Give an example of something a lot more extreme. I mean, you can go to something extreme like this.
No.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. That looks like. Oh, let me click onto that. That looks like a daisy chain of some sort.
Yeah, well, that's a whole bunch of timers and that. This is a machine controller that does a whole series of functions. So it's a whole bunch of
Nice.
logic circuits and timers and in it.
Nice. Yeah. But what I was getting at is the schematic. In other words, the drawing of these circuits. Got to start with something simple.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the square that's being represented for the 555 timer, you will see the numbered legs in different positions. Can you show that again?
Yep, I'll bring that up.
Yeah, I'll bring that up again, and because this is what was something very difficult for me to get used to. Because as we were saying, you find your dot or your notch, and from that point you count counterclockwise. It's 1, 2, 3 counterclockwise. It's not that one. It's the other one.
Yeah.
There it is. As you see,
they're not in order.
number 1 next to 5, and you got a 3 next to an 8, and you got 6, 7.
That's just to make the diagram easier to show.
Right. This is why a solderless breadboard is of good importance, because you use jumper wire between those points.
Yeah.
And then once you've completed it, like I have done here on the one that I found.
Yeah, you're going to
find
it's
a little messy.
Yeah, you're going to find your components don't go everywhere where it says on the diagram. They electrically they go, but not physically they work that way.
Right. And then once you've gotten used to translating all that to an actual breadboard, it begins to look like this. Well, this black one I just never cut it to fit nice and neat, but I can do that. And you can see that a schematic might look something like this. And on your solderless breadboard looks something like that. And then on your solder board, and this just a back pedal. The solder board has the contacts on both sides. That's why I like this particular board. And then you can learn how to solder nice and neat like this by using buses on the back.
Yeah, and there's all different little boards you can get. You can get ones like that are just squares, or you can get even boards like this that have bus bars on them, so that your power and that are always run, so it makes it a little easier sometimes for hooking things up.
Yeah. So you can do it that way too. Those I find a little expensive though. A printed board. Those are called printed boards.
Printed board. Well, I don't expensive. I mean, that was 95 cents. That was a buck
really?
and a half.
Then I'm not looking in the right place.
Yeah.
I'm not looking in the right place. Look at this. I'll show you my drawer of my boards, which I'm willing to do. You see, I got bigger ones. I have the narrow ones, like I showed you, and then something a little wider. And then down at the bottom here, I got something even wider yet, right down here. Big, like,
there's lots available, all sizes from maybe an inch by half an inch up to a full 12 by 12 board are available.
Right. I've seen sheets like this.
Yeah, 1 foot by 1 foot square. Yeah.
Can you imagine if you didn't solder the right connections together, trying to figure that out?
If you build a big circuit, a prototype circuit, you need those kind of things.
Right. Yeah. What you showed there on your solderless, putting that on a solder board.
Yeah.
That is a challenge, because I did go through a couple of generations before I come up with this.
Yeah, you start getting you start getting into like this.
Yes. Now, mine remind you, everyone who's watching, Jim is an engineer by trade. So don't feel bad if this is looking, you look at this and go, oh my God, the guy's that's what he did for a living. So got to give that to you, Jim.
Thank you.
I mean, I got to admit, this what I did here. I think I feel like I've accomplished the impossible. And in comparison, what you just showed, it's puny work. Yeah, got it. All right, thanks for the boost, ego booster, Jim.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, how does this? What does this have to do with skill modeling? Everything, I think. If you want to animate, if you want to light and blink and flash and do all kinds of things. In fact, I think this is part of the fun to do it yourself. But hey, Tenor Controls is always there, and if you want to learn about programming, you can do Arduino, and you can call it a day even there. And maybe at some point, maybe we can do Arduino. What do you think, Jim? Do you have an ambition to do Arduino?
I haven't. I've got a test circuit. I've got to sit there and sit down and start teaching myself Arduino. So I've got a learner kit to practice on. I just got to get around to doing it.
Yeah.
I'll probably, it's one of those things where I find a design where I need for it, I'll probably learn a lot faster with it. But yeah.
Right. Well, you know, when I took a look at, I don't know, I didn't ask Dave about what he used to, because he has blinkers, and he has spots where he's got the LEDs shimmering to mimic welding.
Yeah.
So I didn't even ask him as to where he got the circuitry yesterday when he was with us, but I guess it's probably Ralph. I think it is. I think it just very might be Tenor Controls.
Yeah, it probably is.
It could very well be. Hey, Ralph is very accommodating. I got to put it out there, because you ask him for something, he'll do it for you, and he gives you a fair price. And he already has things set up for Star Trek. He has things for model roading, like the railroad crossing.
And he's got one for cars too.
And he's got one for cars, headlights, turn signals.
Yeah,
the whole 9 yards. So he has that for car builders as well. And I think it makes the build a lot more interesting. And from what I understand, the scale modeling shows are starting to get used to the fact that modelers are starting to like their models.
Yeah, for quite a while they've been ignoring the lights. The lights weren't important.
Now maybe Randall, you can talk about that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they tend to sort of look down their noses at lit models. They seem they used to think that like if a model was lit, it was a toy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, no, they are starting to accept that the lighting is part.
It's a thing.
Of it. Yeah, that it's trying to get across the look of a thing. I mean, could you imagine an NCC 1701 refit without its lights?
Yeah.
No.
I can't. It could have the best paint scheme in the world, but somehow without its lights, it just loses something. I'm not saying that everybody should paint or should light their refit,
models. Yeah,
or whatever. But I think lighting adds to it.
Yeah,
as Jack says, it animates it.
It can help tell the story better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, for something like the Spindrift or the Fantastic Voyage, what was that miniaturized vessel?
Mm-hmm.
Half of the build, half of the build is inside the model. They've got these windows, and when you look in there, and you've got this fantastic paint technique, modeling technique, all sitting inside the model, and no lights to show it off.
Armor's really bad that way. if you've got an armor vehicle with full interior, it's really hard to display all the work that's been done inside.
Unless you do what Joe McCaslin does with his.
Oh, do the cutaways, yeah. But
Yeah.
even then, an interior of a tank can be shown off, especially if you do it realistically, like an active tank would have red lights, so you could lighten inside of a tank with red LEDs and that in there to give a more realistic look.
Yeah. Right. Well, I can't remember his name, and I was freaking out the one night. You can even put cameras inside your.
Yeah, we were talking about that, about all the miniature cameras you can get now.
Because on RC airplanes and quadcopters and everything, cameras can be pretty small. They could be.
Well, you can get cameras down now to about 3 mils.
3 mils, but I think that just might be crazy small. I think.
You could mount one of those. You could mount one of those small cameras inside a refit hangar bay, so you get the same view Kirk had.
Looking out the back of the ship. Yeah,
looking out of the hangar instead of looking into it. So then you do have to detail those cargo bays that are under the flight deck.
Yeah.
Whereas before you can't see them because you're looking in from behind.
Well, something with that being said, Joe McCaslin will no longer need to do cutaways. He can just put a camera inside his build. But okay, this is something that is of interest. How would the scale modeling shows and clubs look at this now? Would you think it'd be? Would they say you're just showing off now?
I'd say
there'll probably be a while before they accept it, because they would think of it, and now it's more flash than what's necessary. But
I don't know.
Let's see.
If you're going to build an interior, I mean, who was it? This was a couple of years ago. It was somebody does these wood models, and I don't know. We were talking about the wood models, and there came a point in the conversations. Why even bother with an interior? You'll never see it. And then it's all about it's about the modeling. It's about the hobby. It's about actually knowing that it's there, and you take pictures as you're putting it together.
Yeah.
And then once it's covered up for good. But why should it be? Why should it be? Why not stick a camera in it and a little few lights and light it up and I've seen these servos being controlled by iPhones. There's nothing that is you can't deny that you can put this RC cameras inside models, and then you can dial up your model at home and then go to work and show your workmates, here's my model build right here. Hey, come on, it's doing this thing right now.
Yeah.
Now, if we can get, like little tiny people to be inside them and act accordingly. Little robots, little nano robots. That'll be the next thing. As you see in this discussion, you can go pretty far with it. The RC guys, and I don't think the RC guys, I would think a lot of them buy these Circus, these cameras, pretty much.
It's becoming a thing now with RC. It started with the quadcopters, and it's now being working on for the fixed wing aircraft are now putting the cameras in.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see a lot of that on a channel that I have a fondness for, Flight Test, on YouTube. Look up Flight Test. They do a lot of quadcopters. They'll produce a fixed wing airplane of some sort, and they fly it around a field, and they have a quadcopter basically being a cameraman chasing it and showing you things in mid-flight. Absolutely wonderful videos to watch. And some of the fixed wing planes have cameras in them too, and they have videos about how to put those things together. Because from my understanding, it isn't that difficult.
It's not that difficult. It's just expensive. Like the goggles.
It's just expensive.
The goggles range from about $150 to almost $1,000 for the goggles.
Yeah, just for the goggles. I mean, That's. I mean, if you're getting into that range, might as well not do fixed static, blinking, flashing models that we built. Might as well throw a couple of servos and a motor on it and let it fly, or let it move about the ground. That's getting into. I think though it would be nice to at least animate the models, not necessarily be RC, but at least animate what you're doing.
Yeah.
On your build is animated a little bit. I think it's pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to having you get done with it now.
Yeah.
When do you think you can get done with this? So I have some expectations. Oh heck, I haven't paid very much to the chat. Don Gilchrist showed up and talking about the history of rockets and missiles. Go figure. Shuttles and Ken Skiffington showed up. He's let's see. George says that Jim is too smart for us knuckleheads. You know what, George? Speak for yourself. Not that I'm trying to compete with Jim. That would be a practice of futility, of course. But no, George, this is not hard stuff. And Jamie, who's done a refit for all things, he's done a refit, and he learned it from bottom. He didn't know that there were two ends to a battery, quite frankly, which a lot of us already know, but he didn't even know there was two ends to a battery. But he certainly got involved, and he finds it.
He's learning. Yeah,
it is easy once you learn the basics. It's not that difficult. Yeah, I see you're laughing out loud on that comment there, George. Just thinking whether to start the third weasel or not. It's smaller with the tow launcher. This is Don. He's you know what? If we didn't know any better, we'd think he's like you're running a fiefdom of some sort. Missile launchers, missiles, and rockets. And
the minions are going to take over. Yeah,
the minions. Well, they've certainly taken over his workbench. If this is the first time you're watching the show, you got to go back a few episodes. Not quite an inside joke, but we are referring to past episodes. So what's this? Ken saying, I'm going to put, of course, Don heard that. He's laughing out loud. I'm going to put sound in my alien narcissist docking bay. Okay. All right, Ken. Soundboards. That could be very similar to what we're talking about too, aren't we there, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but those are probably going to be more programmable IC chips that carry sound. Unless it's a bleep or blop or whatever, but most of that stuff will be programmable. Am I correct?
Oh yeah, that's programmable. Then you're talking memory. Well, the common one is just to put like an SD card or a mini SD card and it's stored in a memory card.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to go with that too. Not just programmable chips, but you're saying SD cards. Okay. All right. Well, I think we murdered a good hour and a half, just the three of us. I don't know what. Heath was making a little too much noise, and I did mute him just so that you can talk there. Jimmy just disappeared. I don't know what happened. Heath, what happened to you? Anyway, so past weekend, we talked about molding.
Yes.
We continued our conversation about molding on the Across the Pond, and you hinted upon the electronics. We thought we'd just talk about this, blinkers and flashers and all kinds of stuff. Boy, I don't know if we can take this conversation any further unless we get into Arduino and to other things like that. But there's
start getting more into techniques probably.
I found a lot of the techniques, like how to solder, for
How to
one.
solder, use of
Yeah,
heat shrink properly, and stuff like that.
that's, and you don't necessarily need heat shrink. You could use even like a rubberized paint of some sort. You can even use
Tulip or something.
5-minute epoxy if you want to wait around that long.
Hmm.
I'm just saying, there's
Used as an insulator, isn't it?
what's
Pardon?
that?
Tulip, the fabric dye, I think, acrylic fabric dye.
Fabric dye?
Yeah.
I've even seen it used as like an insulator or light.
Really?
Yes. You can like this slick. If you're using that slick stuff, yeah, you can use that like an insulator.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. You mean to say
It's a thick acrylic.
slick.
Yeah,
This.
it's a thick acrylic.
Oh yeah, you can use that too. I've often, even inside a model, used a hot glue, not just to pin down wires and components and stuff, but also to insulate. I think there's a lot of things. Shrink tube is shrink tube. I thought I had something here. Here's an example of shrink tube.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you can. I bought there's shrink tube even at Home Depot.
Or you can probably go, well, you can probably, here, I got this at Princess Auto, but you can probably get it at Harbor Freight. You can buy kits.
Yeah.
You can buy a whole, you can buy a whole,
This side of the pond, you can get stuff
you
like
can
that.
buy a whole heat shrink kit that's got all different sizes in it.
Right. I only got 2 sizes from Home Depot. Those are that. I don't use them very often.
On our side of the pond, you can get it from stores like Maplin's.
Yeah.
Electronic store.
Yeah, on eBay you can get like spools of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you shop on eBay. Oh, okay. George, he sells liquid electrical tape. I don't know how liquid electrical tape
Yeah,
works.
there's liquid electrical tape you can buy. Yeah.
I've even used like that repair kit for dishwashers.
There's
a
a
rack inside dishwashers.
There's a thing I've seen. I've only seen it in Maplin's, but it's probably available over there as well. It was like a marker pen, but when you draw, it actually
You can draw a circuit. It's got copper built into the. It's like a epoxy in the ink, and it's got copper in the ink, so you can make a circuit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's paint like that too.
It would be applicable to very low voltage circuits, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you got to be careful. You can't make a real large circuit with it. It's nicer doing repairs because it tends to be not as it's more resistive than normal copper foil, so it can cause issues in the design of a circuit. But it's a cheap way to do a repair, or if you need to add a short foil for something, you can use it for that.
Other strips of copper and brass where wires can't go. You can just use the light LEDs. There'll be no issue with that. LEDs, you don't need a lot of electric to. If you're talking 912 volts at best and you're using a resistor on them, you could use that paint because, like you said, the paint does have a resistance quality to it. If it's just a matter of lighting an LED, that's no problem. But a circuit, yeah, I agree. I think that would be kind of
iffy.
Iffy, yeah, certainly. Because as you see, everything has to be timed and resisted, and the capacitance has to be
stable.
Just stable. Yeah, that's one way. Yeah, exactly. George says that he sells a liquid electrical tape at work. Dr. Loomis keeps the minions at bay, Don says.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's George says that. Dr. Loomis. No, that's Dr. Gilchrist keeps the minions at not very well at bay because they're hovering around his hands where he's working his models. So yeah, the live chat has been pretty lively tonight. It's been really lively tonight, and it's been really fun. Off to make a brew. Cannot get this iPad linked up for sound and vision. It's some sort of magic beyond him. See ya, Don. I guess he hasn't been watching, but he has responded to some of the
Comments, yeah.
comments, though. All right, very good. You guys got anything else? Anybody over there at the live chat got anything else?
No, I think we're pretty good.
I was just thinking about what Heath was saying earlier about lighting and about how probably the simplest lighting you can do is one LED,
Yeah,
and one button cell battery,
yeah.
and you just put the appropriate terminals together, and you get yourself a light.
There you go.
As long as
simple.
As long as you're not lighting any more than maybe 2, 3 LEDs at a time or something like that.
Yeah.
You're not looking for anything sophisticated.
Well, you can put that inside your model, but you'll be in a hurry to get it finished so that you can see it lit.
Yeah. I was thinking that when I was, lighting the Mini Falcon engine.
Yeah.
Just use that one LED button cell battery. Put in one of these things here.
In a cell holder, yeah.
And hide that in the base, and away you go. Your on-off switch is just simply sliding the battery in and out of its case or holder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty Mickey Mouse job if I've ever seen one.
That's the guy with the Mickey Mouse T-shirt.
Well, I wore it just because of what we're talking about, Mickey Mousing things together. Yeah, that is a simple circuit. You're right. A battery and an LED is all you need. And in fact, I remember when I was a kid, I did that, but it wasn't an LED. They haven't figured out LEDs just yet, but
little bulbs, yeah.
It was these little bulbs that you find in flashlights, incandescent bulbs.
Hmm.
Yeah, and the bulb that I had, if I remember right, wasn't one of the round ones. It was sort of, I don't know, it was a funky shape, but it had a lens on the end, and it did give a spot. A spot of light. Of course, as it further distance, it widened. And I remember when we went camping, I had a battery case with, I can't remember if it was 2 AA's or 4. I'm tempted to say it was 2 AA's because the bulb itself would have been a 3 volt. 2 AA's will be 3 volts. And I had a wire coming out from one end,
yeah,
and a piece of aluminum foil coming out the other end, and the wire I would just touch with my finger, make the 2 contacts, and it made the bulb light. And it was really simple. It was just a battery case, a wire, and the bulb. And the bulb, I made my own socket. I stripped the wire and I wrapped the bare wire around the threads of the socket, and that was the socket. Was just the wire spiraled around the base of the bulb. So there was nothing fancy to it whatsoever. So even then, I was messing with electronics. That's kind of what, about 13 or 14 at the time. Because, I did have, and that's the thing too, this is why I'm so excited about it, is because of the advent of the LED. Because when I was a kid, I did have a couple of models that I did put together, and even paper models that I put together. And I'm like, boy, I wish I could light them. It would just bring a whole new dimension to them and be so much fun. But didn't have the resources, and nor LEDs. LEDs are better, much better, as long as you resist them, as I'm finding out. They'll last forever.
Yep.
Forever meaning more than 50,000 hours. And that's a lot of freaking hours. Whereas an incandescent like bulb you had in the flashlights from years ago, those burn out. They even sell the the bulbs separately, so you can change those out on a camping trip. Those don't have much of a life to them, and as they get older, they get dimmer.
Oh yeah.
And LEDs
we've all seen anyone that's been used to using mini mags knows what happens when they drop them.
Yeah, the grain of rice balls.
Those xenon bulbs will just shatter.
Shatter, and they got hot too.
Yeah.
Yeah. LEDs don't get hot at all from our applications of an LED. No.
The only part of it that gets hot is maybe the resistor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would be pretty much it. Okay. Well, I think we beat this dead horse pretty good. So I'd like to thank you all for watching, and watching in reruns or watching live. There's been consistent interest in this channel and these shows. I thank you so much for keeping this whole thing alive. I only do it because there's people watching and making comments. And if you have a comment, please put them down on the video. Make a question. Well, I check it maybe once a week. So if I don't get back to you right away, that's because I only check the questions once a week and answer them. Excuse me. In 2 weeks, we're going to have Across the Pond. That's on a Saturday. That's Saturday the 16th. And again, 2 weeks from tonight is going to be the 17th of December, and that'll be the Sunday Hangout. This will be the last broadcast Hangouts for the year. And we talked about it yesterday, made mention of it, that on 6th of January will be the Across the Pond, and Sunday following will be the 7th. That will be the first Hangouts of 2018. And in those two shows, we're going to talk about the future of the community, of community builds. Of course, we've talked about them in the past, so if you are a regular watcher, you kind of have an idea what they are already, but we're going to make a big point of it. But for this year, if you can still post your pictures, so sometimes during the Christmas break, I'm going to try to assemble some sort of video of the builds and of all the things, sort of like a yearbook, so to speak, and video for the community. And I'm just going to find music that's like 10 minutes long, that's not licensed, that I don't have to pay for. And then somebody chasing me say, "You can't have that video on there, so take it off." And the video is lost forever. No, that's what I'd like to do. It's sort of a kind of a yearbook, not quite a year in review, like a yearbook. I like to think of it as a yearbook. So if you do have extraordinary builds that I've caught on to, yeah, God, that Facebook page is amazing. The Google Plus page is amazing in its own right. But there are some car builders that we have on Facebook that are just blowing my socks off. We'll do that. And I have even not just the builds, but some honorable mentions of very specific builders, painters in the community, some of which you would recognize that I'm going to give some time in a video for because they've blown my socks off. If you're an amateur first starting, oh, don't worry. Just get started, learn, make your mistakes, make your crappy builds because you're going to get better with each build passing.
And be willing to ask questions. Yeah.
Yeah, each one of us started at that stage of crappy, and with each level you step up on. Each time you make a model, build a model, do a model, light a model, whatever, animate a model, it's always going to be the first time. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Do something. Start with a snap kit. I mean, how much easier can it get? Hey, they're painting the snap kits for you now. You don't even have to pull out a brush or an airbrush. So snap kits. If you're good with photography, better with photography, then snap kits. Do one. Take pictures of it. We like that kind of stuff. And we'll put you on for sure. And even if it's camera work, learn from that and make good pictures with each pictures passing. I mean, this is what this community is about, amazing skill modelers. It's not about one person or one modeler, one genre, one technique, or this. It's everything that we like to do. We like to see, because if we present everything, then something will catch on for somebody else, find interest in it, and grow with it. And this is what hobbies are about, is to, I don't know, be creative.
Yeah.
And find the community that can appreciate everything from figure painting to model railroading, which I've been watching a lot lately, model railroading, because they've got all the techniques down to make things look real.
Yeah.
And of course, they're using computer technology now to run their layouts.
Yeah, all their DCC circuits, and
yeah.
they're putting cameras in their trains now.
And I didn't know that specific engines have specific sounds, like Harleys do. Excuse me. I don't know. I got the little scratchy. I guess I've been talking too much. That's what it is. Jack has been talking too much. So yeah, in 2 weeks, join us for the last show for 2018. There's been even some mention. Phil was saying, "Why not have a 48-hour hangout over New Year's?"
No, boy.
It ain't happening. No.
I've done one. I've done my deal for the year. If you haven't shown up, you got to wait till next year. It's not over New Year's. And if you want social hangouts, do it. Go for it. It's not going to be me. It's not going to be Jim. I can speak for Jim on this one. Maybe I can even say it for Randall.
No. I have other plans for New Year's Eve.
Right. Well, I don't go anywhere, do anything. So I mean, I'll hang out socially, but not for 48 hours. No. That was once a year is enough, and that's even in jeopardy. Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to hang out, sure, absolutely. Good evening, Aries. It's good to see you. We're about to sign off. Sorry that you're getting the end result of the show, but anyway, happy modeling, everyone. See you in 2 weeks, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all the rest. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.